Coming up this month, we have the second part of our PRS series, where myself and Daniel jump straight into one of the biggest PRS competitions in Ireland. And speaking of jumping in, I'll be showing you a look at my bespoke shiny new boots. Welcome to Fieldsports Ireland.
Impact!
Jesus Christ, we should have practiced.
For us it was an experiment, and it was also a fantastic experience. I have never gone to a competition where the feeling of camaraderie and sort of fellowship, I suppose you call it, was as good. There was great crack with all the American guys who come over, and they've been doing this for years, really experienced guys, but they were a massive help to us. That was a hit.
It was relatively seamless and pain-free to get over here and shoot a match. So I encourage anybody, if you have the opportunity to shoot an international match, go and do it. You're going to meet some fantastic people. The hospitality here in Ireland was amazing.
This is called the blind stage, where we have to, out of sight from the other shooters, build our own props with some bales and shoot down range. We have 2 minutes to fire 10 rounds, and it's a long way. I had 10 shots to take there, I only got 5 off, but I had 2 or 3 strikes, I think 3, which I'm happy with that. Just really isn't time to get 10 shots, 10 aimed shots off there, but what fun. Sticking bales and blocks and everything in, and that's a long way down. And with all the rain we've had, it's hard to see the bullet strikes on the sand. But yeah, a lot of fun.
I mean, the main thing I took away from this was it, as a deer hunter, it put me in very similar situations mentally that you find yourself in when you're in the field. In a stalking environment, you're always under pressure for time, especially if an animal is in a position where you can shoot it, but it might not stay in that position for long. So that same pressure to get the shot off quickly and effectively and safely was at the PRS match.
Okay, so in this one, we've got 10 shots at 1,060 yards. 2 positions off this trailer, so 2 minutes again. It's short time. It's going to be tricky. We've got a blustery wind as well, so if we can get a couple of hits here, I'll be happy.
You're way high, you're hitting the middle of the pan.
I have no one here though from tree.
Please leave that in the show.
Well, I did something incredibly stupid there. Just having never done this before, just with nerves and all the rest, I got down and there was a board with 10 written on it, about 4 feet above the plate, and I shot at the board with 10 written on it, just under time pressure, and 4 shots in, the spotter said you're shooting straight through the 10. So then I realised my mistake and dropped onto the plate. But yeah, crazy the silly things you do when you're put under pressure. Oh well.
Good shooting fundamentals went out the window on various occasions where you were just under pressure to take the shot, but it also was a massive amount of fun, and I learned a lot from it in a controlled environment on the range with lots of professional shooters watching us. They were able to highlight the mistakes we were making, and some of that information I've learned I'll definitely take with me back into the stalking world. And for me it was a fantastic experiment, and I learned a lot that I'll be able to use when I'm stalking. I don't know about you in your competitive shooting environment.
Well, I mean, I'm used to shooting under time pressure because a lot of the gallery rifle shooting that I do is it's even tighter times with higher amount of rounds. You know, it's a larger round count. You might have 2 minutes and 45 seconds to make 24 shots from 4 positions, but the distances are a lot less. You know, you're at 50 meters. So although you have a precision target to hit and you have a time constraint, adding in all the extra bits and pieces with dialing for distances and allowing for wind and everything that we had to learn kind of new for this setup, added a whole different side of it for me. And I was impressed by how the setup really performed, because I don't think there was another rifle setup there that would have been under €5,000. You know, like the vast majority of shooters that were there had custom built guns, and I know several of them I talked to, like their setups were €8,000 and €10,000.
Yeah, I definitely felt a little bit undergunned when we got there, and these guys were rocking up with chassis systems coloured in the American flag and stuff like that. But I have to say, I mean, we rocked up as total beginners with the cheapest kit there.
Yeah.
And our ambition on this, because we were filming it as well, and because everybody can go online and look at our results, our ambition was not to be last at this. And we weren't. I mean, we actually finished
Sort of mid-table.
Mid-table. We were
Yeah.
one plate away from each other. Now, Daniel had shot a few of these matches already, and he's a competitive shooter, so one would expect that he would have beaten me by quite a few plates. Can you remember who finished top?
I didn't see the results in it. Yeah, Jason bet me by a plate.
It was very close, but what it did show, which is what we wanted to do from the start, that you could come into PRS shooting as a complete beginner, not break the bank on your kit. I mean, these setups are in and around €3,000 depending on what accessories you go for, but we went with factory kit, budget kit, factory ammunition, and we hadn't spent a lot of time on the range checking out our drops or testing windage or anything. We just used the Hornady app. We did get our speeds of the bullet and put that straight into the Hornady app, and every time I dialed on for a distance, I hit every target. Now, I didn't hit it every time, but we shot from 200 yards out to 1,050 yards, and there wasn't a plate I didn't manage to hit with this setup. So for me, that was a massive achievement and something I'm personally very proud of.
Yeah.
But I was also very proud of this budget rig being able to go out and mix it with the best of the best.
Yeah, I mean, one of the stages at 935 yards, I actually didn't have a good score, and it was because I second guessed the app.
Okay.
I put in all the data into the app for my drops. I put in the wind, and I felt like I was going to be high based on the target before that, and I also felt like there wasn't enough wind. So I second guessed it. I couldn't see where my shots were landing, and my shots were landing exactly where I was aiming, which was off the bottom left hand of the plate. So it sort of put manners on me that way, that you should trust the setup. And after I'd done that, that was one of the earlier stages. After I'd done that, for the next 2 days, I punched in the data into the app. The app told me what to do. I put that on the gun, and all I done was make as good a possible shot as I could. And the vast majority of the times, I mean, when I made a good shot, it hit the plate. If I made a bad shot, it didn't. So that just tells you that the kit was doing the job, and any missed shots were based on shooter error, not equipment error. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I know with my kit that I was the weak link on the day, and that's going to happen. You're under time pressure. You're from pretty unstable positions, so the fundamentals of shooting really come into it. As Will told us in our last episode, it was breathing and trigger control. But when you're under pressure for time, breathing and trigger control, as I said, went out the window a little bit. So a lot more practice needed on that. But Yeah, as I say, as an experiment, worked fantastically. We had a lot of fun, and I'd encourage anybody who has ever thought about getting into PRS, and even those who haven't, give it a go. Go and look it up. There's some really, really good ranges around who will help you get into it, and it is a massive amount of fun, and it will only improve your shooting.
Good.
Well, a massive thanks to all the crew at the Midlands National Shooting Centre and to all the competitors that made that a really enjoyable first time experience for myself and Daniel. And a big thanks to the brands that supported that as well. We had Gowan and Bradshaw and their brands Bagara, Warren and Hornady, and of course Bushnell for their support. Really was a fantastic experience. And now we take a look at my brand new boots.
So I want to tell you all a little bit about a new pair of boots I've been trying out this season, and these are from Lathrop & Sons in America. And the first thing I want to stress is Lathrop have not paid for this review, and I didn't get these boots for free. I bought these boots. I heard about the company first listening to an American hunting podcast where guys were discussing boots, and I contacted Lathrop and asked if they thought they could help my issues. These guys have been making boots, shoes, insoles and footbeds for years. They specialize in making boots and insoles for people with specific problems, all kinds of issues, much more serious than mine. And the issues I've had the last couple of years with hunting boots, as I was getting really sore feet from prolonged use, and especially on rough mountainous ground, my feet were moving ever so slightly in my boots. I was getting hot spots, I was getting sweaty feet, and just becoming quite uncomfortable. When we're hunting, deer could be anywhere, and we spend quite a lot of our time on rough ground, and your feet are twisting and moving. And even on steep ground, you end up going across a hill quite a lot. So you're on ground like this, and your feet are twisting and moving in your boots. And that's what my big issue was. And I was having to tighten my boots very, very tight to stop my feet moving. And then I was coming into issues with my heels were being pinched, and really struggled the last couple of years. Nothing wrong with the boots at all I was using, but it was just, I felt there was an issue with my feet that I wanted to get sorted. So there was a bit of me thought that maybe I was just being soft in my old age and that I had to man up. But I had a discussion with the guys. What they advised me to do, from listening to the issues I've had, was to go for a custom footbed of theirs. This is custom to my feet and specific to the issues I had. And what this actually does in theory, you can see at the heel side here, there are these kind of wings that come up inside the boot, and they grip my heel much tighter than the boot itself would, or the normal footbed would. And that has completely eliminated the little bit of movement I was getting. Also, the issue I was having was a little bit of heel lift on steep ground. And basically heel lift is when your foot and your boot don't move at the same time. So your heel is moving in your boot and your heel is coming away from the footbed as you're walking or as you're climbing. So the guys offer a number of services. They can tell you what boot on the market will suit your foot best. And the way the process works with Lathrop is they send you a foot mapping system where you stand on carbon paper basically, and your feet and the way the weight transfers through your feet is visible to them from this foot mapping system. And I sent it back to them. I kind of thought this was all a little bit of hocus pocus, to be honest, but straight away when they looked at my foot map, they were able to say that I had had an issue with my left leg. And I've had 5 knee operations on my left knee, and it has changed the way I walk. It's changed the way it transfers through my left foot. And the fact that the guys could see that just from the foot map made me realize that, yeah, these guys know what they're talking about. So I wanted to go the whole hog just because I like new kit and I like spending money. So I went for their own Mountain Hunter Elite, and they do a couple of different membranes. They do Gore-Tex and Event. So Gore-Tex takes the moisture away from your foot, but it stays in the membrane and it takes a long time to dry. So if you're wearing them for a long time, you then start to get hot spots because your feet are damp. So a little bit of movement and combined with the dampness can cause you some issues. The other issue with Gore-Tex is if you take your boots off, they then take a long time to dry. So if you're wearing your boots every day, they might not be dry when you put them back on. Event, it takes the moisture away from your foot much faster. My feet are a lot drier when I take the boots off, and the next day boots are bone dry inside. The other thing that they do is they will customize the shank, that's the stiff part inside the boot, specifically to the type of foot you have and to the type of hunting you want to do. I do quite a lot of mountain hunting, so this is a very stiff sole, and what that does is it gives you a much more solid platform for when you're climbing. You're not relying on your toes and your foot doing all the work. The shank is basically like a shelf, so even if your toes are just gripping onto a rock here, the boot is so stiff that it feels like your whole foot is supported. The issues I've had with really stiff boots before is when you're walking on flat ground, you kind of feel like you're walking with very stiff feet, and it can be uncomfortable. But what Lathrop do is they kind of curve this front section of the boot, so the boot can roll on the sole. It doesn't have a flat sole. You can see there's a big gap here underneath, so you can roll right forward without having to bend all of the upper and without putting too much pressure on your foot. But I would advise you look them up. They're really great guys. They're passionate hunters as well, so they understand what we're talking about. These boots are expensive. The total cost of what I've done is in around $800 plus shipping, so it does get quite expensive. But as I say, there's lots of different options with them. You can just do the foot mapping and they will tell you what boot will suit you best. Then the next level is to go for the custom footbed, and they'll make this specific for you. I've got quite a thick wedge under my heel, and this is to help me when I'm climbing and walking, because if your heel is higher than your toe, you're already leaning forward ever so slightly, so it makes it much more comfortable when you're rolling the boot forward. And then, as I say, the next level is the full custom boot. These ones have a little bit of an extra wedge in the heel to help my particular issues, but other than that, the fit is just wonderful. So look them up, give them a shout. It's a big investment, but it's one I actually cannot recommend enough. I have been blown away by just how good these are.
Well, I'll keep you all updated on how those boots perform long term. Just be glad this isn't smell-o-vision. And thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again soon.